has structure. You need structure in your book. First of all, when I wrote 26 Degrees, it was first done spontaneously. I had no kind of direction on where I wanted to see my characters. I just knew what genre I wanted to work with, and I knew that I wanted action. First of all, the meaning of structure is actually you have to give meaning. Giving meaning to the starter of your book is actually, you're actually starting the structure of your book. Your book has to have meaning. What I mean by meaning is, what are you going to talk about? You have to have an idea, an ending. You have to have an idea, an ending, a stunning surprise 1 and a stunning surprise 2 in your beginning. When I wrote 26 Degrees 1, I actually only had one stunning surprise, and that I can tell you guys, because I don't want to tell you the end of it, because that's just like pretty much spoiling the whole book for you guys. So my first stunning surprise was when Chasing Casey found out that NSA agent Val NSA was actually an orphan. She grew up in an orphanage, and like some people, when they grow up in an orphanage, they become real fond of another child that's there. They become close-knit, and by them living under the same roof, they might say, this is my cousin, my brother, my aunt, or whatever the case may be. Well, Val took in a guy, Ronnie, that was called Big Ronnie. In my book 26 Degrees, he was Boston Mafia, and they became real good, a close net while they both were in the orphanage. So Val and Ronnie were orphans, so they took care of each other. So naturally, they bonded and they just called each other brother and sister. Well, Big Ronnie went off in another direction, and Val went to the government. She decided to become an agent for the NSA, and Big Ronnie was in the criminal, but he wasn't. He was like a good mafia, but not as bad as the other. He was okay mafia, but not as bad as the other mafia family. And I think he had that softness about him because of the fact of having his sister, and he knew that his sister was in the government for NSA, and I think that he really didn't want it to ruin her, so he wasn't as ruthless as the other mafia families. I'm trying to keep my computer on, I'm sorry. Let's see. So and then I had a second stunning, and that just, it was overwhelming. That just came to me at the last moment when I actually was closing at the end of my book of 26 Degrees. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself, so let me just scroll back some. So you have to give structure. You have to have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 1 is basically when you first start in your book, which is Act 1. It's like emotional adolescent. So it's like you're new, you're trying to feel your way around everything. So Act 1 is like being emotional and being an adolescent because you're just clueless. Number 2, Act 2 is actually you're specializing in growing up. So now you're getting a swift of what's trying to take place. You're actually feeling your way through. You're actually getting a somewhat of a good idea of what's going on. And then you have Act 3. Now you became adults, so now you're an adult, and what's happening, what's taking place, what you need to do. So therefore you plot and character are basically the same thing, because you have to have, in order for you to have a plot, you have to have characters. So it's basically the same thing. So in order for you to start writing your book, I think that your beginning really matters. Your beginning has to be eye-catching, because if your beginning of the book is not eye-catching, then you can't drag the readers in. I think that if it start off boring, that you're gonna have somewhat a little problem, because you have to use your first beginning as an eye catcher, as a grabber. You have to grab your readers in, and I think that that's where 26 Degrees came in at. And I pretty much think that I caught you, grabbed your attention on the first chapter, and I think that it got people into wanting more, and I see that myself now. Maybe I'm a bias, but I'm hoping that you guys would like 26 Degrees and see what I see, and see the fact that my book 26 Degrees is action through and through, from the beginning to the end. And I did that because I grew up looking at action movies with my dad, and I got adapted to that. So that's something that I'm as immune to, and I decided that that's my genre. Not only plot and characters are the same, you have to have an adversary. Adversary is basically the person, like in my 26 Degrees, it's like Dimitri and Pascal Hernandez. Those are the criminals. Those are the ones that's your adversary. And then you have to have your heroes. Your adversaries are the ones that are villains. And then you have to have a hero. Now, most books have one hero. I had 2 heroes. But then, if you look at it, I had 2 main characters. And I pretty much said, okay, well, my 2 main characters, Chase and Casey, are basically my heroes. But then you had Miller and you had Val. So you had Chase, Casey, which was the main 2 characters, and you have Val and Miller. They were something like, I say, the supporting backup as far as the heroes. When they were there, they were there to help out with the heroes. And I think that without, how to put it, I'm trying to put it in a better way where you can understand, as far as when you have to create an adversary. An adversary is the person that causes the conflict. The heroes is the one that comes in and try to get the adversary for causing the conflict. That makes sense? Or do you want to speak English? Either or. Adversary is the bad guy. Heroes are the good guys. And you have to have an adversary in order for the heroes to come in to try to maintain and keep level on the conflict the adversary are making in your book. So you pretty much have to like number, you know, what you need in your book to make structure. Just remember that plot and characters are basically the same thing, because you have to have plot to make your characters, so you have to have characters to make your plot. Have to have characters to make your plot. I wrote in 26 Degrees. I had two surprises. I had Val, and they finding out that Big Ronnie, which is a Boston Mafia, is Big Ronnie. I'm sorry, the CIA chasing Casey found out that Val has a brother. A guy she calls her brother. They grew up in an orphanage together. They didn't know that she was an orphan, you know, and by her growing up in an orphan, you know, Big Ronnie got attached to each other. So and because Val is not a CIA agent, she's NSA, that she pretty much came out in the open and told them that, hey, you know, Big Ronnie is my brother, you know. And then like I said, the number two is a surprise. I don't want to tell you guys about that. And then also let's see, now guys, when you write your book, picking your beginning is very important. You have to have a beginning. Please don't forget that your beginning is somewhat what forms the structure, and it forms the structure into bringing in your readers. You have to bring in your readers, because if you start off where your characters are all over the place, then you don't have a good structure. So if your heroes and your adversaries are all over the place, then you have to go back to plan A and restructure your plans, because like I say, you have to structure your book at a beginning to drag your readers in. Because if your book is boring, when they first started reading, they're not going to read the whole thing, because they just think, well, damn, you know, this book is boring. Why would I want to read the whole thing if you start off like this? So grab your readers first. So before you get on there and start writing, take a clear piece of paper and your pen and start writing on paper. Start writing on paper on how you want your plot, your structure, your characters, your adversary, your heroes to go. And not only that, I think naming your characters are also important too, because you can't just go in there, he say, she say, they say. You have to have names for your characters. So that's somewhat of the basics of structuring your book. Also, from my personal experience, when I did 26 Degrees, I did not have in mind to create characters to where I can physically see them. I didn't create my characters until after I basically finished my book. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. Late at night, writing, typing, laughing my butt off. 3 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, and I'm just sitting there typing, and just it's, you know, excuse me. So, so I urge you guys to always write on paper and start structuring your book from the beginning to the end. You have to name your characters, what they're going to be, what they're going to do, and what are they, who are they, and in the middle, you know, you start structuring your book. So right now, I'm just giving you guys the basics on structuring. You have to have an adversary. You have to have your hero. Adversary is the character. So therefore, adversary is the character. They're the villain. So adversary, character, villain. The adversary is the character, who are the villains. So So therefore, once you create your adversary, then you have to create your villains. Once you create, you create your heroes. Once you create your heroes and their names, then you need to find out on this side, say, well, what are they? Who are they? What they do? And so when I created my characters, it made it more easier for me to do 26 Degrees too. So right now, you guys, yes, I am working on 26 Degrees too. So I think that sums it up for the basics of structuring your book. This is Scott via Mac. Take care and God bless.